Hello and welcome to Dude Hack. My name is Steve and today we are answering the questions, can over 50s use Bumble? Now before we get into it, you might be wondering, who the hell am I? Why would you take advice from this spring chicken? And the answer is, I'm the owner of dudehack.com, which is an online dating site which gives tips, advice and just general information on everything online dating, pretty much every dating app you can imagine, whether that is Bumble, eHarmony, or even things like Adult Friend Finder. But today you are here to find out about Bumble and whether or not being 50 or older means that you can or can't use Bumble. Well guys, the very simple answer to can 50-year-olds use Bumble is yes, of course. Any age group can use Bumble. The big question probably isn't that, and more so whether or not you want to use Bumble. We'll run through the reasons that you might want to or you might not want to in this video. But guys, look, dating in your 50s, it isn't easy. Especially in this world we live in today where online dating is starting to basically take over the world. It's going to be difficult to get yourself out there if you don't decide to participate and at least give it a try. And I'm going to assume that for some people watching this video, this is probably going to be a brand new world for you. Whether that's because you've never been in the online dating game, maybe you're just getting out of a divorce and you're trying for the first time. Whatever the reason, guys, I have heard it before and it's very, very normal to be feeling this despite what age you are. But guys, the good news is you're 50. We're not talking about you being 100 or anything. You're 50. You got plenty of good years left in the tank. So that means let's get ourselves out there. Let's see what is happening in the dating game. And I'm sure that this is going to be something that you look back on in a year or two and you think, thank God I listened to that weird Australian guy on his YouTube channel. Now look, before we get into Bumble and why it might be good or might not be good for you, the big reason I found with all of my clients that do happen to be over 50, I have found that probably one of the biggest reasons, despite what gender, the biggest reason that they do freak out a little bit about maybe jumping on an app like Bumble or Tinder is because they don't want to be one of the only people in their age group swarmed and surrounded by people in their 20s. Essentially, you don't want to look out of place. And that makes sense. When you're just trying to somewhat ease into things, the idea of that to you sounds like you'll stick out like a sore thumb. Maybe people will laugh at you because you're not in that 20 age group. Guys, reality check, that is not the case. Remember, there are millions of users on these apps. So even if the median or average age isn't around your age group, there is something for everybody. Now, what prompted me to make this video was a little while ago, Sharon Stone, the actress, came out with a tweet saying that Bumble had banned her account. Essentially, they saw an account with Sharon Stone's photos, they went out on a limb and they assumed it was a catfish, which is somebody basically pretending to be her, stealing her photos. Now, you can't really blame Bumble for that. Sharon Stone, she's beautiful. If somebody was to steal her photos, I kind of understand. But Sharon Stone went ahead and tweeted Bumble and said, guys, what's up with this? Get my account back. This was a little bit of a joke and they did obviously reinstate her account. But this goes to show that Sharon Stone, who is in her 60s, people, is still using Bumble. That being said, even though Sharon Stone is in her 60s, the median age group of Bumble users is 25. But like I just alluded to, when you have millions of users on your platform, that is still a lot of people. And on top of that, if you are one of these people that doesn't want to be inundated by messages from younger people, being called a cougar or a sugar daddy or anything like that, guys, you can set parameters. Going further on that, what that essentially means is that you can set restrictions. You can set filters, i.e. certain age groups that you do and don't want to be seen. So at the end of the day, if you want to jump on Bumble and purely meet people 40 and up, for example, you can by all means set those parameters and ensure that is the case. Just keep in mind, younger profiles or people outside of that parameter will still be able to see you. Now, the big question I get asked more than anything from people in this age group isn't can over 50s use Bumble? It is, am I too old for Bumble? And again, if I haven't answered that question yet, guys, the simple answer is no. But without knowing what you're getting into, it might feel that way. The last thing that we want is to throw you right into the deep end and you feel like you can't swim at all. So I strongly urge you to take on some tips and some advice, especially if you are just getting back into the dating game after a decent amount of time off, or if it's your first time trying online dating. Tip number one is it is what you make it. What I mean by that is you need to go into this with an open mind. Things have changed. That is just the simple truth to this world. Things always change. I hear it time and time again from people in the especially older demographic which haven't been used to online dating, and they're much more likely to get frustrated quicker. Just think, you know what? I'm just going to meet someone traditionally. Yet they're not doing anything about that either. What I'm sort of getting at, guys, is there's going to be at least one negative experience. Now, I'm not saying you're going to get into online dating, you're going to be expecting to be inundated with horrible messages and things like that. But there is going to be times when some sleazy idiot comes and says something to you. So what I'm getting at is have an open mind. Don't let one or two negative experiences on an app like Tinder or Bumble be the thing that stops you from online dating in general. There is much better sites out there to avoid any of those negative and annoying and sleazy type comments that you might get on apps like this. I feel like I do need to address this because even though Bumble is an app that does put the focus on women first, guys, I do need to let you know that Bumble still is somewhat of a hookup app. Yes, people meet for relationships on there all the time. Yes, people are just meeting for friendships as well. But at the end of the day, it was an evolution on from Tinder, which at its core is essentially for people to meet somewhat casually. That's just on average. I don't like to make big sweeping statements like that because they're not 100% true. You at 50 years old could by all means meet the next love of your life on Tinder or Bumble, don't get me wrong. But just get into Bumble with an open mind, knowing you're probably not going to meet the love of your life straight away. You might have to kiss a few frogs before you find your prince or your princess. And guys, that's just the dating game. Should that be the thing to scare you off? No, that's kind of exciting. It's like just starting all over again as a teenager. My second tip for you with online dating when you are in your 50s is trust your gut. Now, I say this for two sides of the stone. Number one, obviously, if somebody is asking you personal information or asking you questions that seem a little bit fishy or wanting to meet in weird circumstances or asking you to send any information on a different platform via email or anything like that, guys, trust your gut. And guys, look, if you're in your 50s and a girl in her 20s who is gorgeous is, throwing herself at you, just take a step back and ask yourself, is there something fishy about this? And just listen to your gut. On sites like Bumble and Tinder and Hinge, unfortunately, there are going to be some fake profiles. There are going to be some people catfishing, which is them pretending to be people they're not. It doesn't happen all the time. Don't stress out about it. I do have an article up on dudehack.com on how to spot these potential catfish or people pretending to be who they're not or anything like that. So go check that out on dudehack.com. I will link it down below. But don't stress over it too much, guys. If you read that article, you'll be fine knowing what red flags to look out for. But on the flip side of trusting your gut, I recently had a client I was speaking to, a woman who was 62 years old. She told me that she had been speaking to someone on an online dating site. They'd been hitting it off, but then it came time to actually meeting for a date. for whatever reason, my client was feeling extremely nervous about meeting this guy. I asked her, what is your gut telling you? So when I asked her and I sort of put her on the spot, she reflected and she realized that what her gut was telling her about this guy was all good things. Now, I say this because the only reason that she was having really big hesitations about meeting this guy is because she hadn't been on a date in about 30 freaking years. She had never been on an online dating date. So that is extremely normal to feel that way. You are essentially going and meeting with what is a stranger, someone you've never met in person. If you've only dated the traditional way, that is what you know, if in case you've been on a blind date or things like that. When I heard this from her, I strongly urged her to go and just take that leap of faith. Guys, I think you can probably guess what happened. She had an amazing time and her and the guy hit it off. Tip number 3 when it comes to online dating in your 50s is ignore the external noise. What I mean by this is what I find with every and any single person that I have helped out who is in their 50s or old, every single person's sister's dog walker's friend is going to have something to say about your situation. Go on this app, go on that app. No, don't avoid that. I had a friend who had this situation. Guys, ignore it all. Even take what I say with a grain of salt. If you're feeling excited about getting on these online dating apps, maybe you're thinking about giving eHarmony a go, Silver Singles, even Adult Friend Finder, whatever that might be, who cares what other people think? If anything, don't even tell them. Focus on yourself and getting out there and making some new connections. Guys, it's a pretty fun world at the end of the day when you try it out for the first time. And last but not least, make an effort. This applies a lot to you fellas. Guys, there is a little bit of a running joke with the sort of younger generation when it does come to some older guys popping up on these dating apps. A lot of the time when you do see a guy in their sort of older 50s and 60s, and they may not be completely used to taking photos for their online dating profile, a lot of the time the photos tend to look like this. So my advice for you is to make an effort. Don't just take any old quick selfie and think that people are going to be throwing themselves at you. Guys, this is essentially you marketing yourself. Put a little bit of effort in because your effort is reflective in the amount of matches and connections that you do make. If you're completely stumped on where to even start with building your profile and taking photos, even though you're not looking for advice on Tinder per se, guys, I highly recommend you check out my full ebook beginner's guide for online dating, specifically Tinder, but it will relate to basically any online dating app. And how to build your profile and take a good photo, that's a huge part of it. It's called Tinder Hacked, and I will put the link to my ebook down in the description below. Now that's basically answered your question about whether or not you can use Bumble. And the simple answer is yes. But are there better dating sites and apps out there for people who are over 50? That really does come down to your goals. But personally, I do believe that there definitely are way better dating apps for people in their 50s and over compared to Bumble. If you're somebody that does take dating very seriously and you do want to meet your next lifelong partner or even just have an extended long relationship, not just a fling, guys, the best dating app by far for anybody, especially in that age group, is eHarmony. Hands down. It's got by far the highest success rate. And that age group of 50 and above, there are plenty of people using it in almost every single country. The statistics from eHarmony are actually insane. They blow my mind. 4% of all marriages in the US today. Think about every single marriage that exists today, 4% of them started from eHarmony. Guys, that is a lot. So if you are somebody who is searching for something more serious, I personally wouldn't waste my time with Bumble. You probably would be better off on eHarmony and be surrounded by more like-minded people in a similar situation. But on the flip side of that, guys, if you are somebody that just wants to have some fun, maybe you've been married for 20, 30 plus years and it's time to get it out there and have a little bit of no strings attached, casual enjoyment. That's totally fine. In fact, I think, yeah, you should. Guys, you would be way better off on a site like Adult Friend Finder. Now, that might not really be your thing, especially before watching this video. But guys, at the end of the day, if there is any part of you that does want to hook up or meet someone for some physical fun, just cut to the chase and get on a platform where people are actually looking for the same thing. It happens all the time where a guy in their 50s will be speaking to me, doing some client work, then they go and end up, despite my recommendations, jumping on Tinder and Bumble, but then they come back to me a week later wondering why they don't have women throwing themselves at them. It just doesn't happen like that. If you want that, go to a site that is dedicated towards that. You can be safe knowing that every single person on that site wants the same as you. But look, there is one dating site that I believe is by far the absolute best when it comes to anybody 50 and over looking for anything, and that is Silver Singles. Now, the name might be a little patronizing to some of you. I know you're not all silver singles. You're in your 50s at the end of the day. We're not, complete oldies. But despite that name, it is by far the best dating site that is tailored specifically to daters 50 and over. The reason it is by far the best dating app for anyone 50 and above purely is for the reason that you are surrounded 100% by like-minded people. Sure, the overall user base might be a bit smaller than sites like Bumble, eHarmony and whatnot, but if you were to pinpoint the amount of people 50 and above, you could argue there probably is more on a site like Silver Singles. So if you are somebody who is just looking for some physical fun, if you're somebody who is specifically looking for dating and something a little bit more serious, if you're somebody looking for friendship, if you're somebody who doesn't even exactly know and you just want to get yourself out there a bit more, guys, Silver Singles is hands down the best for anybody who is 50 years old or over. I highly recommend anyone who is 50 or over to just cut to the chase, go ahead and sign up to Silver Singles today. It is free to sign up and take the personality quiz. I will put a link to that just down below in the subscription. Just a full disclosure, if you do decide to ever go ahead and sign up for one of their premium subscriptions, I will get a little bit of a kickback. It does help out the channel a lot, but just so you're aware. But at the end of the day, guys, whichever dating app or site you do pick, that is up to you. There are plenty out there. You don't have to just settle for one. If you would still like a bit more information about what dating sites are out there, guys, I have plenty of articles over at dudehack.com. I'll put a link to that in the description as well for anything online dating, whether that's tips, advice, or just general information. I have some articles for dating over 60, dating over 40, seniors dating, whatnot. So guys, highly recommend you get on over to the site and check it out. But guys, if you have enjoyed today's video whatsoever, or you have even just liked it, please go ahead and press the thumbs up button down below. And if you are new here, please press subscribe. But until next time, I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Be well, stay safe, and I will see you later.